Hello and welcome back to the Frugal Granny UK channel. I'm Frugal Granny, or Ali as you can call me. I'm a 64-and-a-half-year-old pre-retiree. I'm going to be leaving my main job on the 5th of June, and I've started this channel to document the last few months run up to retiring, how I intend to sort out my finances in that time, and then how I managed to live on a quite reduced income, relatively speaking, once I have retired. I've retired 2 years short of the state pension, so I've got a 2-year gap to fill before I will have that money coming in. Today I want to talk about my pension prognosis and will it be enough. I've had a few questions in comments on various my videos asking, have I got pensions coming in? Am I going to keep my side hustle at the supermarket? Will I take in lodgers? How am I going to manage? Well, hopefully today I can answer some of those questions. I've been waiting for the estimate from the administrators of my current workplace pension scheme so that I've got some realistic figures to crunch. And this week that letter arrived. I've got the figure for that fund, although I still need to apply for the tax-free lump sum and choose an annuity. I actually know the value of that pot now, and I can do some guesstimate calculations using that figure. So if it's of interest to you what a woman on her own who's worked for 20 years after having brought up children for 15 years, what she can expect, well, you're in the right place. So let's have a look and see. So first of all, so we've got something to compare with. Let's just quickly recap about my current office income, and then we can compare realistically with what I'm likely to be living on once I have retired. My current office income, net income when tax, national insurance and pension contributions are paid, at the moment is £1,677 a month. It was 1,748, but as I explained in a previous video, before I made my sudden decision to retire early, I had opted to purchase 5 days unpaid leave for the summer. And that is my salary sacrifice, and the scheme deducts that money 1 day a month for 5 months over the course of the first 5 months of the tax year, and you have to also pay the employer's part of the pension contribution. So it's quite a considerable sum, and I think I have found myself about £70, if not more, a month down, and I talked about that in a previous video. If I'd known I was going to retire, I would never have done that, but I did, and I've just got to suck it up, unfortunately. So at the moment I'm on 1677, and my basic side hustle income for an 18-hour-a-week contract at the supermarket, again 20% tax rate, national insurance, paying employer pension contributions at the top rate. My basic take home from that is 640. So if you add together the 167 and the 640, you will know what my baseline monthly income is at the moment. Now, I've explained in 2 previous videos that sinking feeling and sinking deeper, how I allocate my money from those 2 sources of income into sinking funds, weekly domestic consumables and discretionary spending. So I'm not going to go over that all again, and those of you who've listened know that I run a very tight ship, and also that I am in the run-up to losing my office salary, trying to put money aside aggressively to pay for the last renovation on my Victorian terrace house, which is going to, I need to find 3,000 for that, and 750 for the reglazing of the front door with Victorian sandblasted glass, and they're coming on Monday. So Yeah, so 1677 plus 640. At the moment, we're in May and I'm living on April's salary. In June, I will be living on May's salary. I will leave work on June the 5th, and then I've got 3 or 4 weeks paid leave. At the end of June, I will get June's salary, which will pay for July. I've also got family visiting from abroad in July, so that's going to be an expensive month. And then in August, I am effectively on my own with my side hustle income of 640 and 3 small monthly annuities. So let's have a look at whether those pensions are going to be enough. What have I got? Well, as I said, I've got three annuities coming in. They're the old style pensions, defined benefit pensions. So you get a lump sum and you get a monthly annuity. Now, I could choose to take, or I could have chosen to take a reduced lump sum and have a higher monthly annuity, but I decided I wanted to take the full 25% tax-free lump sum and have the standard annuity amount for the rest of my life. And when I die, those annuities die with me. That's just the way those schemes were set up. Back then, 20, 30 years ago, there was not the options that you have today when it comes to putting money into pensions. So the first one that I have that's been frozen on and off over the years is with the university superannuation scheme. I was with a university in the Midlands for 2 years before I had children, and then I was at a university in London for 2 years before I relocated here up north. Now that fund is going to give me £176 a month. And then I have another pension scheme with a further education college, which was 7 years of work. I think it was 7, it felt longer, might have been 9, 7 probably. And that's going to give me £133 a month. So together, that's about £310 a month. Now, you might wonder why I'm already taking those annuities. Well, what happened was, before Christmas, I had a letter from both of the fund administrators saying, hey, you're going to be 65 in a year. What do you plan doing with your pensions? And those schemes basically end, when you're 65. They were set up before the pension age was raised, so these funds are 65 or bust, basically. So where I work at the time was facing a voluntary severance scheme. I was not eligible for the voluntary severance scheme because my job was not in scope, as they say. But, there was that sort of buzz in the air, and I thought, if for some reason or other I end up leaving, isn't it funny how your subconscious knows these things? I thought, I want to take them, and I want to take them on the voluntary severance date, which was the 28th of February. So I wrote back to them and said, I want to retire early on the 28th of February. And I phrased it in such a way that it sounded like I was going to take voluntary severance, because I thought that would, give them a little bit of a boost into processing this quicker. Well, they did. It was all processed really efficiently, even with Christmas in the middle of all that. And I received the tax-free lump sums, I think, in the middle of March, and the first annuity payments, at the end of March. One comes in on the 21st of the month, the other at the end of the month, which is a little bit annoying, but hey, I gather that's pretty standard. So I've had 2 payments each from those schemes, and I have put the lump sum from one into this year's, actually I've put as much as I can from the lump sums of both, let me get this straight, into this year's ISA allowance. The balance I have put in a high interest saver account, and those four annuity payments have gone in there as well, and they're sat there accruing interest at the moment because I really don't need to touch them, and I thought that would help provide a little bit of a buffer if things get a bit bumpy in July and August. So that's those. And the third annuity fund, which is with my current employer, I don't know why I found this one a lot harder to get my head round. Again, they contacted me and said, you're going to be 65, what do you want to do? And at that point, I said, well, I'd like to take it at 65, but I want to continue working for 2 years until I get my state pension. That's where I was last November. Can you believe that my life has changed so radically in the last 6 months? So they set all that up for me to take that annuity in the coming November. And then I was going to have to set up a new fund with them for the remaining 2 years. And to be honest with you, I was like rubbing my hands together. I was thinking, my goodness, I'm going to be raking it in. Ha ha ha. You know what they say. How do you make God laugh? Tell him your plans. So I was probably a bit of an idiot. I told him my plans and now he's laughing. I'm laughing too, actually, so please don't get me wrong. Anyway, in March, when I had my little crisis and decided that I was going to take early retirement, I got back in touch with the pensions team and said, this is what's happening. And so they had to scrub everything that they'd already put in place for me and start again, for which I feel very sorry because I've caused people a lot of work. But anyway, I've got the paperwork through for that this week, so I'm able to talk about it a little bit more constructively. The amount of the fund is less than I thought it would be, but when I've done the maths on what I would have got if I'd worked for another 5 months till I'm 65, what I'm losing is reasonable. It's effectively the 5 months that I haven't worked. So then I've done the maths to calculate the 25% lump sum, which is fine. And that's probably going to go into a 1-year fixed term bond to accrue a little bit of interest. And then using the annuity figures that I've got already in relation to the cash pots that they're coming from, I did some proportional mathematics and came to the conclusion that the annuity on this fund is going to be about 115 a month. I don't know that for sure yet because I've got to fill in some forms and buy an annuity and all that sort of thing, but it looks like it will be about that. So the income I'm going to be having from my 3 pension annuities is going to be about £410 a month. Okay, so you add that to the 640 from the supermarket, the 18 hours a week shifts, and that comes to, let me get my maths straight if my spreadsheet is right, £1,065.24. Let's not forget the 24 pence. Then the interest on my main account at the moment is about £7 a month. So let's leave that in there. That gives me about £1,072.24 every month as of August. That is £600 less than I'm bringing in at the moment. Okay, so if your outgoings exceed your ingoings, you've got to start trimming your outgoings. Well, it was pretty obvious, I think, to me that the first thing that was going to go was the £400 a month that I'm saving or technically putting into renovations. So that's gone straight away. I've looked at the other things. There's not really terribly much else that I can trim unless I start reducing very slightly the amount that I'm putting in each of those sinking funds. I have decided I won't be saving. I was putting about £70 a month from the supermarket salary into a personal savings account. That's not going to be happening anymore. And the money I was putting aside for a new fridge, that's not going to be happening anymore. So let's just see what I've got left. I've got utilities, car sinking fund, annual expenses sinking fund, firewood sinking fund, my work phone, emergency fund, a well-being account, a sort of household things that break replacement fund, Cassie's medical subscription, the pet sinking fund, petrol, 4 weeks of food at £45 a week, discretionary spending of £50. Now what I need to do to be able to accommodate all that is I need an extra £200 a month on top of the 1072. So what I'm looking at is needing £1,272 a month. Now when you look online at what they say a pensioner needs to live a reasonable life once they've retired, I think at the moment it's about £1,300 a month. So I don't think my 1,272 is unreasonable. It's within professionally calculated estimates. So effectively, I'm going to be about £200 a month short. So what am I going to do about that? Well, I have decided that if I can get an extra shift at the supermarket every week and maybe one other one during the month, so that's an extra 5 shifts during any 4-week period. There's an extra shifts app. You can go on it. If there's a shift available that you can do that you're trained for, you can apply for it. But it very much is everyone for themselves, and if you've not been in the right place at the right time, you're going to miss out. And so far, I've managed to get extra shifts most months, so I'm not too worried about that. And I have actually left a note for the checkout manager to ask if if there's anything extra going. So that's my plan for the moment, is to try and get an extra shift every week at the supermarket. So that will probably bring me up to about 22 to 24 hours a week, which is not bad. And to be honest with you, the sort of pressure in that job is not the same that I was facing at the office. Yes, there are pinch points. Yes, there are some very awkward customers, but it's a different sort of stress to dealing with the sort of bureaucracy I was having to face, or still am a little bit, every day at the office. And I'm quite happy about it. People there know me now, customers know me now, and I'm quite touched about the number of people who say, you've got such a calm voice, you're so helpful. That really, really helps and offsets, the occasional person who sort of yells all sorts of horrible accusations in your face. So yeah, that's what I intend to do. I won't be able to save, but I've sort of comforted myself a bit by the fact that the savings that I have got is bringing in interest every month, and that I don't intend to touch that unless I absolutely have to. And so that will effectively be my invisible saving for the time being. I keep a separate tab on my wondrous spreadsheet that in which I log the interest from every account every month. I sum it up, and then it sums itself at the bottom right automatically. I've set it up that way so that I know whether I'm going to reach the £1,000 limit, after which I have to start paying tax on it. So there's a short answer, or not so short answer, to that question. How am I going to live once I've retired? Will the pensions be enough? They are not going to be quite enough, but hopefully the supermarket side hustle will make that up. But one interesting thing is that if I substitute the value of the state pension for my supermarket salary in my spreadsheet, it is enough. I think it's about 900 and something at the month, every 4 weeks at the moment, and that's more than enough. So once I do get to sedate pension age, I can probably breathe a sigh of relief. But let's see how we get through the next 2 years. It's going to be interesting, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be quite a ride. But anyway, thank you so much for dropping by. If you've got any more questions, please put them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. And subscribe and like, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for popping by.